Welcome to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. We are going live. We'd like to have your comments, questions, reactions to the midpoint of the Bengals season with a 5-4 record. They have the bye week and missed a heck of an opportunity. There is no question about it. It's strange. The Bengals go to Baltimore and win 41-17, and people are duly impressed, and rightfully so. They went minus in the turnover ratio. I'll get into the turnovers here in a little bit, but they were -1 in the turnover ratio. when you go -1, you're gonna lose the football game about 70% of the time. They not only beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, they beat them by 24 points in Baltimore. To me, that's still a mind boggler. But then the very next game, they play the New York Jets. They go +2 in the turnover department against the Jets. And when you go +2 in the turnover department, you're going to win the football game like 85, 86% of the time. And they lose the football game to the New York Jets by 3 points. So it kind of undid the victory in Baltimore a little bit. Totally undid the victory in Baltimore, almost by the same score, except reversed. Instead of winning 41-17, they lose 41-16, lose by 25 points to the Cleveland Browns at home at Paul Brown Stadium. But handled in the turnover department. And I think here's some interesting numbers that I just saw here at the midpoint for the Cincinnati Bengals of this season. Cincinnati Bengals are one of a bunch of teams that are 5-4, 6-3. The Baltimore Ravens are 6-2. 18 teams in the National Football League are 500 or better. 18 of the 32 teams have an even record at 4-4 or a winning record. 14 of those 18 teams are plus or even in the turnover ratio for the season. In other words, it's a wash. They have 18 takeaways, 18 giveaways. Or they have 20 takeaways and just 18 giveaways that are +2. So 14 of the 18 are in that category of being even Steven in giveaways, takeaways, or in the plus department, takeaways, giveaways. 4 of those teams are minus for the season. And it's remarkable in some cases they are where they are. The Atlanta Falcons have a 4-4 record. They're -3 in the turnover department. The Baltimore Ravens have a 6-2 record. They're -3 in the turnover department. The Cincinnati Bengals are 5-4. They're -4 in the turnover department. This one is crazy. Kansas City Chiefs are 5-4. They're -9 in the turnover department. Mahomes is having a season like Joe Burrow's having in terms of interceptions. These guys are throwing uncharacteristically high number of interceptions. And to me, the Cincinnati Bengals have a 5-4 record and -4 for the season in the turnover department is a good sign that once they start taking care of the football a little bit and get back into the plus department for the season, they could bode very well for themselves. Here's their remaining schedule. The remaining 8 teams they have to play. The Raiders are 5-3. They're +2 in the turnover department. That's who the Bengals have after their bye week. Pittsburgh's 5-3 now after the win, and in my mind, controversial win last night on Monday Night Football. The officials wanted to be the stars of that show. And they're even. They have as many giveaways as they have takeaways. The Chargers are 5-3. They're +2. There's 3 teams right there with a 5-3 record. The Bengals are sitting at 5-4. Will those teams be 6-3 or will they be 5-4 when the Bengals come back to play and go out to Las Vegas to play the Raiders? The 49ers are surprisingly 3-5. Big reason why? They're -9. Just like the Kansas City Chiefs, they're -9 in the turnover department. That's killing them. The Denver Broncos are 5-4. They're even in the turnover ratio. The Ravens are 6-2. They're -3 with a 6-2 record. Kansas City, we talked about 5-4. They're -9. The Cleveland Browns are 5-4, and they're even. So which one of these teams, the Bengals, everybody they play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams with 5 or 6 wins. 5 teams with 5 wins, just like themselves in their second half of the season. The 49ers only have 3. The 49ers are the only team that don't have 5 or 6 wins and all of them are within a decent range of each other in terms of turnovers, less than a handful differential. Who's going to get hot in terms of taking care of the football and taking the football away? You win and lose games in the National Football League turnover ratio. I mean, it's tried and true. It is a big factor in the outcome of football games for sure. Joe Burrow's got 11 interceptions. He's tied with Sam Darnold for the most in the National Football League, and he's got 2 pick sixes. That's tied for most in the National Football League. All the interceptions are certainly not Joe's fault, but he's taken some chances that have backfired on him, and the pick sixes have come in 2 of the losses. He had a pick 6 in Chicago when he had 3 straight interceptions on 3 straight passes, which was mind-boggling. They lose that game by 3 points. And then the pick 6 in this football game came on the first drive, the 11th play of a potential touchdown drive. They're going in to score, interception back to the house, 14-point swing from the 3-yard line. So Joe Burrow, in my mind, is not going to have a second half of the season like he had first half of the season here in terms of 11 interceptions and 2 of those pick sixes. That's not going to happen in the final 8 games of the season. I'd bet a lot on that. So it's going to be better for Joe Burrow in the second half of the season in that regard. And he's having a hell of a year. I'm not trying to diminish what he's done. He's got 20 touchdown passes, tied for 3rd most in the National Football League. He's got the 5th most yards, tied for the 3rd most touchdown passes. He's averaging 8.73 yards per attempt, 3rd best in the NFL. His quarterback rating's 9th in the NFL. He's having a hell of a year. Now, he is having interception problems, but those are going to get cleaned up. No more tip passes going through receivers' hands for interceptions. Joe Burrow's not at fault on those. Clean all of that up. Play cleaner football in the second half of the season. If you can turn it around and be +4 instead of -4 and finish the year at least even, they have a chance to win all these football games. Raiders, Steelers, Chargers, 49ers, Broncos, Ravens, Chiefs, Cleveland. They're all winnable. They're all losable as well. Everybody's bunched in the same situation. The AFC is up for grabs, totally. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals in a 2-week time frame went from the number 1 seed in the AFC to the 10th seed by losing 2 football games, going from 5-2 to 5-4. It's that bunched up. The thing is, as a former player, the one thing that you want as you go into your bye week is to still be in control of your own destiny. And they're in control of their own destiny. If they go out and win football games, all of their goals are still right in front of them. They can achieve every one of them. They don't have to rely on this team to beat that team, and they have to win this game and start going into all these parameters and what has to happen for the Bengals to make the playoffs. If they win football games, they put themselves in position to be a playoff team. Still, they're on the outside looking in right now, but they're only like a half game out of that final playoff spot. So still a lot to play for. But that's why this game was so frustrating, because you talk about an opportunity that wasn't capitalized on, a missed opportunity. Oh, man, this one was it. I guess you watch football long enough, you see all kinds of things. I can't recall seeing a team going on an 11-play drive, and the 11th is a pick 6. And then you get the ball back, and you go 9 more plays for over 70 yards, a 75-yard touchdown drive, and 9 plays for a touchdown. You've run 20 plays for about 150 yards, and it's a 7-7 football game. I've never seen that before. The Cleveland Browns have 7 points on the board. The Bengals only have 7 on the board. The Bengals have run 20 snaps. Cleveland haven't taken the field yet. They haven't run a snap. I mean, one team's got 20 snaps for 150 yards. The other one has 0-0. Haven't even snapped the football yet, and it's a tie game. That's what turnovers can do to you. That's the issue. Too many of these giveaways have given short fields to the opponent, and that's putting your defense in a hell of a bind. You can't give the football up, either let them score by giving the football up, which has happened twice on the pick 6s, but you can't let them have 1st and goal at the 7-yard line, 1st and 10 at the 15-yard line. You can't let them have a short field. They're in the red zone, not doing anything to get there offensively. Their defense gave them the football in the red zone with a takeaway. Can't allow that to happen. And in this league, you have to basically cherish every single possession. You can't give them up. You can't say, here you go, you can have an extra possession. I don't really need that. you can have it. Are you kidding me? No way. You can't give the opponent extra possessions, and you can't let the opponent take possessions away from you. Possessions are gold. That's the biggest thing I think they have to take care of when they come back in the second half of the season is the turnover issue. The other thing is red zone. The last couple of games in their 2 losses, they were top 5 in the NFL in the red zone. I mean, they only had 2 drives where they, had to settle for field goals, and the field goals were game-winning field goals. They were killing it in the red zone. The last 2 games. In the Jets game, we saw what happened. Interception return, 65 yards by Jesse Bates all the way to the 1-yard line. They don't score a point. First and goal inside the 1-yard line. No points. Turn it over on downs. In this past game against Cleveland, we already talked about it. Pick 6 from the 3-yard line. Intercepted, boom, back to the house. Can't do that. Each game, the Jets game and the Browns game, they left 11 points in the field. The touchdowns that we're talking about that they didn't score, and there was a 14-point swing on one because the Browns did. And then they settled for field goal in a critical moment in the game and kick 3 instead of punching it into the end zone for a touchdown. So in both games, there were 11 points left in the red zone that were critical, particularly in the Jets game. That was a 3-point football game. You leave 11 points in the red zone against the New York Jets and you lose by 3. Problem is, this Cleveland Browns loss makes the Jets loss even more painful and even worse. 2-game losing streak. You go into the bye week, sell scout, find out if teams have cracked the code on you, if you have to change some things, if you're showing tendencies, if you're showing things that the opponent's picking up on, you get a chance to sell scout in the bye week. You sell scout everything on a down-by-down basis. The Cincinnati Bengals right now are having problems, too many 3-and-outs. Their 3-and-out ratio is one of the worst in the National Football League. 1, 2, 3 punt. That's the next worst thing to turning it over. 3-and-outs kill you. Your defense was just out in the football field. You go 3-and-out, you throw them right back out in the football field. They can't even catch their breath, never mind make an adjustment. The Bengals have a too high a ratio, too high a percentage of 3-and-outs for as good as they are offensively. Have to convert on third down, stay on the football field. That's a big factor in what's been going on with the football team as well. Their ratio of points scored per drive, per possession is pretty high. Pretty high. They just have to cut down on the 3-and-outs. Be more consistent. It can't be 3-and-out, 10-play drive. 3-and-out, 8-play drive. 3-and-out, 7-play drive. You can't. It has to be more consistent. Eliminate or minimize. You're not going to eliminate them, but minimize the 3-and-outs. It's happening to them on too big of a regularity. Those are some of the things. And then defensively, obviously, in the last couple of games, tackling has been a major league issue, big problem. They're not wrapping up and getting people on the ground. And then in this past football game, explosive plays. Are you kidding? A 60-yard touchdown pass, a 70-yard touchdown run. You can't give up 1, never mind 2. You gave up 1 in each category. You gave up 1 by ground. You gave up another by air. And it's a matter of not being in the right fit, hitting the right gap as squarely as you're supposed to hit it, shed blocks, make tackles. There were 2 or 3 missed tackles on Chubb's touchdown run right up the gut for 70 yards. Eli Apple got beaten over the top on the 60-yard touchdown catch by Peoples-Jones, but he wasn't the only problem. They were playing cover 4, which is quarters coverage. People bit on things they shouldn't have bitten on. There should not have been just one person on the deep portion of the football field trying to negate that play. Eli Apple did not play the proper technique, but he got 0 help from a couple of other players he should have gotten help from. So you have to clean those things up. This football team, when I look at the tape, they're playing hard. They're just not playing smart enough. They're giving effort. It's not like they're dogging it. It's not like they're like, this isn't important to me anymore. They're playing hard. Man, you got to play smart football. You have to be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and get there how you're supposed to get there. Those are the things that they're slacking in a little bit. in this 2-game losing streak from the defensive side of things. So they have a bye week to catch their breath, make changes. In my mind, not only tweak what they're doing, but find out the things they're doing well and build on that. Eliminate the things that aren't going well. Just eliminate them. Take them out of the equation and build off the things you're doing well. Give a complimentary play, something that you can feed off of. You've already established a pressure point with things you're doing well. What can you do if you're running? If a running play is effective for you, it's been effective all year to this point. Make sure you have a play action pass tool off the same look. Make sure it's all complementary. It all fits. Don't make your play action pass off of some kind of a run game that you haven't had success with. I mean, if you're creasing defenses with a specific run, play action pass off of that. Put the defense in a sweat. There's a lot of adjustments, a lot of tweaking you can do. Minimize things. If you think you have too much if the players are thinking too much, cut it back. I've told this story before. Paul Brown. I remember my rookie year. No, it was my second year, first year as a starter. He said, well, gentlemen, he got up in front of the team. He said, gentlemen, I overestimated your football intelligence. I thought that we could handle everything we have from a game plan standpoint, but the proof's in the pudding, and you've proven to me that you can't. Here's what we're going to start with this week. You put up 3 runs and 2 passes, 5 plays. Once you show me you can handle those against every defense known to man, we'll add to it. We went into that game with maybe 8 runs, 7 or 8 passes, and just wailed them, beat the heck out of them, because we did those perfectly. Look at the great Green Bay Packer teams. Green Bay sweep. Paul Honing, Jim Taylor. The same thing. Maybe different formations, different looks, but the same thing. Same thing. Same thing for the players. The Raiders, they didn't care what you did defensively. They said, we have Gene Upshaw and we have Art Shell. We're going to run the football right behind these 2 behemoths. I don't care what you do. And then they had play action pass off of it. Football, it's not rocket science. You don't have to be a Phi Beta Kappa. You don't have to have your doctorate to be able to put together a game plan that you can execute and win football games. So I'm not saying to oversimplify. I mean, it's important. Coaching is important. I don't want to sound like it's not, because it is. Believe me, coaching is extremely important. But players, if they can execute a handful of foundational base plays, now you establish an identity who you are, and then you can complementary components off of that. Find out who you are during the bye week and work off of that foundation. Offense, defense, and special teams. Unfortunately, special teams has got some. Darren Simmons has a challenge. He has the biggest challenge due to injury. Offense and defense, knock on wood, has stayed very healthy. That's the one thing the Bengals are looking at in the second half of the season. They're not looking at debilitating injuries. Losing Brandon Wilson as a return guy, he tore his ACL. He's done for the year. Hopefully he has a very, very fine rehabilitation. He's able to come back and be the player that he was before the injury. But these ACLs, you just never know, and the team is crushed. Brandon Wilson, they love Brandon Wilson as a human being and as a player. And every single player in that locker room feels terrible for Brandon Wilson right now. But so they're going to have to revamp their return game a little bit. He also was a gunner covering punts, the outside guy that runs down, and he can release before the punt. The gunners go out there wide, and boy, they're the first ones down covering punts. He did that well. He did a lot of things well. He played on all 4 teams of special teams: kickoff return, punt return. You lose him. You lose Hakeem Davis-Gaither to a foot injury for a period of time. That hasn't been announced yet, the severity and the extent of the time that he might be out. But he's in a walking boot right now with a foot injury. He's a key component for Darren Simmons' special teams. Bailey now is going to have to go and play more of a rotation defensively, because you have Evans, who was down earlier, big special teams contributor. He had a knee injury that ends his season. And then Hakeem Davis-Gaither goes down. Now Bailey, he's going to have to play defensive snaps, and there's a trickle-down ripple effect there. Now you've lost Hakeem Davis-Gaither and Bailey, basically, if you're Darren Simmons, because Bailey is going to take more snaps at the line of scrimmage as a linebacker, and he's capable of doing it. He made a real good play in the passing game, went up, high-pointed, and knocked the ball down against a tight end that was Njoku is a legit player. Bailey made a hell of a play on him. He can play, but now you're going to have to figure out, how am I going to fill these holes on my special teams. The guy that's got the biggest challenge from that standpoint, from an injury, physical standpoint, for the last stretch of the season, the second half of the season, is Darren Simmons on special teams. So there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. They can be addressed, and they will be addressed. And hopefully the Cincinnati Bengals will finish the second half of the season in a very, very strong fashion. We'll see how it all unfolds. Right now, we'll get started, but we do want to remind you that First Star Logistics is providing a bunch of unbelievable prizes, big sweepstakes going on. We've had a bunch of people jump on board. You can jump on board a myriad of ways. There are directions in how to do so right below us here. So check it out and register early and register often. You're not too late. There's no reason not to participate. I wasn't trying to rhyme there, but I did. And we're taking care of you at the holidays. Halloween's over. Thanksgiving's coming. This will be a little pre-Christmas Christmas for you. Thanks to First Star Logistics. They get it done. One of the prizes, a $3,000 cash, money on the barrelhead, go Christmas shopping. My man Dave Burke, that'd be good, wouldn't it, Dave? Have an extra $3,000 to take care of the family. Santa Claus can do a lot with $3,000. There's no two ways about that. So jump on board. Enjoy the sweepstakes. First up, another Dave Lennox. Huday Lap, Huday Dave. How can the coaches fix the problems we're having right now over the bye week? Well, like I said, Dave, they're going to do self-scouting and see if they've established any kind of a trend, a pattern, that other teams are capitalizing on. They do that on a weekly basis. If they see that they've established some sort of a pattern that the defenses are jumping on in terms of, boy, 3rd and 6, we're doing this too high a percentage of the time, this formation, this play, and people are jumping on that, and they'll make those kind of changes. But during the bye week, it's more comprehensive. It's a big, big deep dive. What you hope for, football at any level, is a game of adjustments, and then adjustments to adjustments, then adjustments to those adjustments. I mean, that's all it is. It's a chess match. And the higher level you go in football, the more complicated the chess match can become. And in the NFL, it is definitely a chess match. And on a series by series basis, when teams go to the sideline and coaches take out those grease boards that you see them do, they're making adjustments. They're making adjustments based on what the defense is doing. I played many a game where we practiced all week against 3 defensive fronts that we thought they were going to play a significant percentage of the time. And we come out and they'd be in a front that we didn't even practice against. Sometimes. Wouldn't be all the time. They'd come out in a look that was totally foreign. But what you do is you apply the rules that you have. I mean, simple rules like in the running game, block man over first inside. No matter what they do, if you're going to man over you block him, or you block the first inside. If he's on the line of scrimmage, off the line of scrimmage, whatever. And I'm getting as basic as you can get. What I'm saying is there are rules, and there are complementary rules and more rules to rules, but you apply your rules and you make adjustments on the sideline, and you adjust your play calling accordingly to what they're doing defensively and try to find the favorable matchups. It's a very, very interesting game. If you could listen in on the headsets, the communication that goes on between the coaches from upstairs in the coaching booth to down on the field and the sideline, they have totally different perspectives on what they're seeing and how they're seeing it. Sometimes the communication there probably would be unbelievably fascinating as to what's going on during the course of the football game and the adjustments that do take place. All right. Chef, power and counter destroyed our odd fronts. That's what Cleveland does, Chef. I mean, power, counter, duo, double team. Cleveland Browns, I think, in my opinion, I thought it was a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. After seeing that line, I think it's a top line in the NFL, particularly the interior, the 2 guards and center. Treader, did you see the block Treader threw on Jesse Bates on the 70-yard touchdown run on Chubb? He took Jesse Bates, who was coming downhill to fill from the safety position, pancaked him. I mean, took him right to the ground. These guys are physical, they're nasty, and they're coached by an outstanding offensive line coach, Bill Callahan, father of Brian Callahan, the Bengals offensive coordinator. That was an interesting little thing during the course of this football game as well. You think the Bengals didn't want to win this football game against the Browns for a myriad of reasons, including the coaching staff? Bill Callahan, head coach at Nebraska when Zach Taylor played at Nebraska. He was Zach Taylor's head coach. Tremendously close relationship. His son, Brian, is the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Offensive line coach, run game coordinator, Frank Pollock, played for Bill Callahan when he coached the offensive line in the National Football League, the 49ers. So, I mean, everybody looked at Bill Callahan, not everybody, but 3 members of the coaching staff, 3 members of the offensive coaching staff. One was literally a father-son. The others were figuratively as close as father-son. They wanted to beat Bill Callahan, but Bill Callahan came out victorious. And one of the reasons he did is what you're talking about, Chef. His offensive line took control of the line of scrimmage. They did an unbelievable job up front. There's no question about it that the game, in my opinion, is won and lost in the trenches. And that's where Cleveland, one of the reasons Cleveland won that football game was their trench warfare. Josh, tackling issues have been a huge disappointment in the last couple of weeks. Could not agree more. Absolutely. And in this era of the National Football League, it's tough because you're only allowed to have padded practices very, very rarely in the National Football League, and collective bargaining agreements between Players Association and owners and management council are such that, once the season starts, these guys just don't hit anymore. So you're not going to have tackling drills, one-on-one tackling drills, and risk losing players to injury on Wednesday and Thursday's practice when they have to play a game on Sunday. You don't have that many players. You can't afford the injuries. But if they're not being physical enough, putting their head in front of here's the ball carrier, get your head in front, head and shoulder in front, slam your shoulder in there, wrap your arms up and take them to the ground. What they're doing, reaching, trying to grab, and the body's in front of them. All the power. There's nothing that's stopping the forward progress of the ball carrier. Nothing in front, no body in front, reaching. Their body's in front of the defender's body. It's over. They're going to break those arm tackles. You got to get your head in front, hit, wrap them up, take them to the ground. Against the Jets in particular, there's too much block tackling. By that I mean they're just trying to slam them to the ground, blocking. Tackling, you're allowed to use your hands and arms. I wish I was allowed to use my hands and arms and grab and pull people to the ground. That'd be a lot easier to block people, that's for sure. You can do it when you tackle. Don't just block them. Grab them, wrap them up, take them to the ground, period. They have to improve their tackling big time. And the thing is, in their 5-2 start, they were a good tackling football team. But boy, the last 2 weeks, it's been poor. It's been poor, and it's got to improve. It was marginally better against the Cleveland Browns, but against the Jets, 15 missed tackles, 5 different players missed at least 2 tackles. It's a big reason they lost that football game against the New York Jets. Bang, Ohio. How do you like Adeniji against the Browns? How do I like his performance? I liked it. I know Pro Football Focus didn't necessarily like it. They really graded him down. But the Bengals coaches liked it. And, initially, I think Brian Callahan in a presser that he did today, a Zoom press conference, mentioned that the initial intent was to have Adeniji and Jackson Carman rotate a little bit, some series. But they thought that it was going so well for Adeniji, they just left him in there. Adeniji ran every snap, over 70 snaps. And 20 of the snaps came really quickly. 11-play drive, pick 6. You're chasing the interceptor. You're gassed. You have to go back out in the field for 9 more plays. 20 plays in the first 10 minutes of the football game. And you haven't really played much football. I admire him for his conditioning and for his football conditioning, for just having a couple of weeks of practice. This kid has really, really good feet. He's got really good balance. He's got quick feet. and he balances himself. He's got really good hips. When he snaps his hips, rolls his hips, he brings it. He brings it, and he can climb you. And he's got powerful. He's got strength and power. You get good hand placement. Was it perfect? Hell no, wasn't close to perfect, but it was damn good for the limited practice snaps that he's had, and for the downtime that he's had. Rehabilitation of a torn pectoral. He kept himself in great shape. I admire him for being ready to go. And when they saw him practicing, they must have decided, wow, he's got some traits. He's got some physical skills here that we'd like. Let's see what he looks like. They must have been happy enough because they let him play every snap. They never took him out of there. So we'll see. They have said he's going to be the starter when they go out to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. They've already declared that after the bye week, Hakeem Adeniji is the right guard when they go play the Las Vegas Raiders. So the coaching staff and his teammates, I talked to Riley Reef about him. I said, Riley, how do you think Hakeem did? And he's really good, really good. And Hakeem was very praiseful of Riley Reef on one side of him, Trey Hopkins on the other side of him, 10-year veteran, 7-year veteran. Any questions he had, any concerns, anything that was out of the ordinary, he said those guys were just an unbelievable resource for him. And both of those veteran players said that he was calm, poised, excited to play, but just, they never felt like he lost any semblance of poise during the course of that football game. So a very, very good start for Hakeem Adeniji. Nate, we're pretty healthy, much more at this point than the last 4 seasons. Bingo, Nate. Talked about that a little bit. The only area of the 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, that has the big challenges, Darren Simmons. He lost Wilson as his return man, and Wilson's not only a return guy, but he's a gunner on the punt team. He plays in the punt return team, kickoff return. He's a core special teams player. You lose him, you lose a lot. And then also Davis Gaither with the foot injury. He's walking around in a walking boot. So he's a core special teams performer as well. He plays on multiple phases of special teams. So Darren Simmons, they'll bring somebody up off the practice squad. They'll add somebody off of somebody else's practice squad to their roster, their 53-man roster. They're going to have to do something, maybe more than one personnel move in terms of the injury that Darren Simmons is dealing with, special teams wise. But offense and defense, pretty darn healthy. I think the bye week will just allow them an opportunity to totally recover, because right now at the halfway point of the season, nobody's 100%. There's a difference between injured and hurt. You can play hurt. If you're injured, you can't go. I mean, you're medically ruled out. But if you're hurt, and you're hurt maybe a lot of places halfway through the season, you're hurting a little bit. Your body's not right. It'll never feel good until the season's over and you have time to recover. You play through that. The bye week gives you an opportunity to maybe lick some of those minor wounds a little bit and finish strong in the second half of the season. The bye being right at the midway point of the season, if I was a player today, I would have loved that. We never had a bye when I played. There was no such thing as a bye. I would have loved to have had a bye exactly halfway through the season. And there's not exactly, because there's an odd number of games. You can have the bye at week 8, after week 8, or after week 9. The Bengals have it after week 9, right in the middle of the season. Gotta like it. In Ohio, do you think Eli Apple lost his starting job? If yes, who should replace him? Well, you're always in danger of losing your starting job. Hargraves, they just picked up off of the waiver wire. Hargraves came into the league as a first round pick. They're going to evaluate him. They're going to evaluate everybody at the cornerback position. That's the other thing that goes on, not just the schematic and the design of the play, but the actual players that are playing at the spots. Do you think it's time to make a move? Do you think stay with him and maybe change some of the calls coverage-wise to fit what your back-end players can do athletically a little bit better, fitting scheme and physical traits a little bit better. I mean, you evaluate everything. There's no question about it. And Hargraves is the latest addition on that back end. They've got some first round talent back there. Back when Marvin Lewis was the head coach, he drafted first round cornerbacks. You know, he felt like if you had corners that could come up and play press coverage, it would allow you to run all kinds of pressure packages. And, that's exactly what the Baltimore Ravens believe. Bill Belichick will do that sometimes, press with his corners and play pressure packages, and then he'll totally rush 3 and drop 8 and everything in between. So the more diverse and versatile your personnel is, the more you can do. So all that's going to be thought about and evaluated during the bye week. But yeah, you're definitely every single week. When Forrest Gregg was the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, he told us every week you had to earn your starting job all over again. That's the way it was with Vince Lombardi. That's the way it was with Forrest Gregg. Andrew, Steelers will not be positive to end the year. Look at how the Steelers have won. Not sustainable in this NFL. I don't know, Andrew. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in the National Football League. 14 years in the league, never worse than 500. This football team has a tradition, has a history. They can play defense. Defense keeps you in every football game. They're starting to run the football a little bit better. Ben Roethlisberger's not the quarterback that he was at one time, but I'm telling you, I would not count out the Pittsburgh Steelers. As soon as you start to count them out, there they come. Here they come. They're 5-3. This division, you look at this division. I mean, the Bengals went from first place in the division, number 1 seed in the AFC, like I said, and in 2 games, they go to last place in the division. They go to the 10th seed in the playoffs. Unbelievable. Everybody, the NFL, what they would like is every team in the league to be 8-8. Every team to be 500, and every fan base to think my team is going to make the playoffs. My team has a chance to advance in the playoffs. My team has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They want parity, total parity. They want anybody to be able to beat anybody. And they're getting closer and closer. Look at how many teams are bunched up at 6-3, 5-3, 5-4, 6-4. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Seems like over half the league is in that situation. And things happen like the Jacksonville Jaguars, 9-6 over the Buffalo Bills. You never know in today's NFL. Parity. That's what the NFL is all about, and they're getting closer and closer. Snow life. Your opinion, what's the ideal week to have a bye week? Early, middle, late in the season? I prefer middle, like I'm talking about. Early, it's like, no, I'm not beaten up quite enough yet. I think middle of the season is perfect, because sometimes toward the end of the season, later, you're beaten up and you're limping to your bye week. It's like, when is it coming? Is it going to get there? I honestly would prefer, if I were a player and if there were bye weeks were available when I did play, I would like it right in the middle of the season. That's, in my mind, it's the best place to have it. John, how long is Burrow's career if he keeps taking hits at the rate and severity he's currently taking? Well, John, the hits are twofold. I played with a quarterback in New Jersey Generals, Doug Flutie. And sometimes our pocket was pretty good, but Doug liked to get out of pocket, create and extend. And sometimes it was, as linemen, we'd be like, why? We don't know what to do. Here's how we're supposed to form a pocket. And is the quarterback going to stay in the pocket? And if a clock goes in his head, maybe he did get hit earlier in the game, and there's a clock in the back of his head. It's like Pavlov's dogs. Once that clock goes off, he's out and he's extending, creating. Maybe he didn't have to. A lot of the hits you're talking about are Joe out of pocket, extending and creating and taking shots. Like the shot that he took on the sideline where the lineman defended him. And there was almost, remember right in front of the Cleveland Browns bench during this football game, Joe got rid of the football and he still gets smoked. He still got hit. It was Jadeveon Clowney put a hit on him that a lot of people thought was late, including myself. And the offensive line reacted. A bunch of guys stood up for him. That was a good thing to see. Zach Taylor talked about it in his press conference. He said he didn't like it. He loved it. His offensive line stood up for his quarterback like that. But Joe is such a good player and so competitive, he's not going to give up on a play. He's going to hold on to it, extend, create, maybe try to manipulate the pocket. Sometimes it's like that tough balancing act. When do I say, okay, that's it. Let's live for another play. I'm not going to try to do something that's almost impossible to do, but I'm so talented and I'm so competitive. I'm still going to try to do it. Some of it's that. And I'm not saying that the offensive line has not had some problems. They have. But Zach Taylor immediately pointed out the fact that free runners from the defensive backfield position, backs didn't pick it up. When you're in protecting your quarterback and they bring more than 5 people, offensive linemen can only block 5 of them. When they bring more, the quarterback has to get rid of the ball before the unblocked guy gets there. If by design of protection, they know there's a free runner and they know there's nobody to account for him, the quarterback has to know that and know that he's got to get the ball out of his hand and he's going to take a hit. If they have a running back stay in to block him, he's got to block him. He can't go the wrong way, make a mental error, or physically get beaten, just like the offensive line can't go the wrong way or get physically beaten. And tight end in is slow blocking. Tight ends will stay in and block some. They have to block the right guy, and they have to be able to do it physically. Protecting the quarterback is not just 5 people. It's your whole offense is a protection unit other than the receivers that are out in the route to catch the football. And am I saying the offensive line's pass protection was perfect against the Cleveland Browns? Hell no. They got the leading sacker in the National Football League. He got a sack and a half, and he had another sack that was nullified by penalty. His teammates, Devian Clowney, I think it was, lined up offside. So they've got great players, and they've got 2 talented pass rushers. And but they were hurting the Bengals more so. Hill, the former Bengal, they were bringing him out of the secondary. He had 2 sacks. 2 sacks. It's not just on the offensive line. So, and then Joe has to, I think, Aaron Rodgers talked to him about it after the Green Bay game. Other quarterbacks have talked to him about it. Minimize the exposure that you put on yourself to hits. Slide, get out of bounds, get down, throw it away. Joe's so competitive, though, and so talented. He wants to beat you every snap. That's the nature of the beast. But in so doing, he's going to get rocked sometimes. It's a combination of a lot of things. Andrew, is Hakeem Davis-Gaither okay? He's not okay. He's walking around in a walking boot, so that's not good. It's not just a minor foot problem. Sometimes it can be when you're in a boot, but it sounds like it's got a little bit of severity to it. They have not announced that it's a season-ending injury. They have not announced the extent of the severity of the injury, but I think it's a little bit more than just a slight sprain of the foot. So hopefully there's no in your foot. There are so many small bones, so many ligaments, so many tendons. There's so much stuff going on in your foot. And when you look at it from a structure standpoint, gravity puts the most pressure on your feet. You have a body. The bigger your body, the more gravity goes down to your feet. And if you've got an injured foot, it's hard. I mean, that's the foundation. That's the basis. That's the base of everything you're trying to do. And then if you're a running back or, a wide receiver, a linebacker, tight end, you have to run violent cuts. You're in space and you have to change direction. And if you got a bad foot, it's hard to plant that foot and push off and get, cut. And so we don't know yet, but whenever you're talking foot injuries with guys, it can be complicated. Hopefully this one's not that complicated, but it very well could be. Raymond, Burrow needs to stop forcing throws in the red zone and learn to live for another down. No shame in throwing the ball away if there's no safe options available. True, Raymond, but with Joe, what is the normal opening that you need? is not the normal. Joe's very accurate. He's very accurate. There are some throws he's made for touchdowns that you would say the same thing. Oh, why did he throw that? Oh, hey, great play. Joe feels like he can, put a football through the eye of a needle. I mean, he feels like he can get it in tight spots, and he normally can. He normally can. He put the ball inside too far on the pick six. He said that right after the game. He left the ball inside in the field of play. When you watch that, you'll see Jamar Chase just flopping, like he's fallen to the ground. He thought that the only way that Joe was going to throw him the football, and when he saw Joe deliver the football, Jamar assumed it was going to be outside off the field of play where he would have to make a diving catch, get both feet down in bounds. Joe left it inside on the field of play. And it looked awkward to me because Jamar Chase is like diving for what? If he stayed on his feet, he might have been able to fight and make sure that Ward didn't intercept the football. If you're not going to catch it, make sure the other guy doesn't. But he was diving to make a play on the ball. And Ward picked it, and then up the field he goes, unimpeded, unmolested, and cuts back inside, and he takes it all the way to the house. So Joe Burrow, instead of getting that ball outside, left it inside a little bit, and that cost him. Live and learn. You're right. You don't. He was the first one to say after the football game, "Look, I didn't play very well." That's the bottom line. I got to learn from my mistakes and move on, just like everybody else. But you're right. Don't force it. He's had a couple of red zone interceptions in the last 3 weeks that look like he's trying to make a play that it wasn't necessarily there, and live for another down, as you put it. There's nothing wrong with that sometimes. But one thing about Joe is he doesn't forget stuff. So he's learned from that mistake, and he's compartmentalized, and he'll remember. Stanley Morgan Jr. was amazing on Sunday. He was. Special teams. He made plays, caught the football, very competitive. He had a hell of a football game. I agree with you. Stanley Morgan Jr. is a guy that he doesn't care about the score. He loves football, and he was getting a chance to play the game he loves, and he was given maximum effort. Love Stanley Morgan Jr. He's a core special teams player for Darren Simmons. He will block. I mean, he does all the blue-collar dirty work. He's a special football player. Can't have enough Stanley Morgan Juniors. Stanley Morgan Jr. is the type of player that you have to have in your roster. I mean, you're going to have your superstars, but you have to have a core number of players that will do anything and everything to fill any role on your football team that you ask them to fill. You can never have enough Stanley Morgan Jr. type players. Is Larry Ogunjobi the answer against the run? Or are we still looking after the season? No, he's the answer. He's the answer. He's played the run pretty well. Again, the Cleveland Browns, I think their offensive line, top 3, if not best, in the National Football League, particularly inside. Larry Ogunjobi knows it. He was on that football team, played for the Cleveland Browns. He was having some exchanges with quite a few of the Browns players offensively during the course of the game. He made a lot of friends there. His style can be DJ Reader is a 2-gap. You're not going to move me off the line of scrimmage. Ogunjobi, when he's on that 3 technique, the outside shoulder of the guard, you have DJ Reader on the nose, basically, or in a 1 technique between the center and guard, or shading the center. Then the 3 technique is on the outside shoulder of the opposite guard. That's where Ogunjobi lines up, and he penetrates, disrupts. They've got a nice little duo going on at that defensive tackle position, and Ogunjobi's made a lot of plays for him this year. He's on a 1-year contract. He's on a prove-it deal, and at this point, I'd say he's proven it. And I would not have any problem if the Cincinnati Bengals and Larry Ogunjobi could come to an agreement for another contract, extend that 1-year deal beyond just this season. I think he's had an impact on this football team. Who's the most underrated defensive lineman I ever blocked? Thanks for all the great years playing and covering the Bengals. Appreciate that very much, Tid. Boy, Most underrated defensive lineman I ever blocked. It's very interesting. That's a good question. I always thought all of them were great, to be honest with you. If they were in the league, they were damn good football players. But I'd say there was a guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers named Steve Furness that played at University of Rhode Island, and just an effort guy. And there were all these great defensive linemen. You had Joe Green, you had Ernie Fats Holmes, you had L.C. Greenwood. You had all these star players as such. Dwight White at the other defensive end position, and then Steve Furness was kind of like a rotational player in there, and just a solid, plugger, get the job done, work you. I mean that there are a lot of guys like that in the National Football League that if they were playing for another team, they'd probably have a bigger role and have more star power as such, because they're good football players, but there were so many good ones that they didn't really have as big a role as they may have had on another team. And that's sometimes that's hard for players to check their ego and be realistic about it and say, the first human reaction is, I'm getting shafted. I should play more. Steve Furness is a guy that knew exactly his situation. He was with a great defensive football team. The Pittsburgh Steelers won Super Bowls. He was a big part of the reason why. He understood his role, and he fulfilled it beautifully. I mean, as well as you can. So I admire guys like that. I admire team players that have talent, that are willing to, sacrifice snaps and fame and all that sort of thing that comes along with it for the betterment of the team. That's how you win championships. That's how it gets done. Andrew, Lap, now that we're about halfway through the year and at the bye, tell us how you see the division playing out. Do you think the Bengals can still get to 10 wins? Who do you think is our MVP so far? Okay. I do think we get to 10 wins. Is it going to be easy? No. You got to win five of the 8 to get to 10 wins. And like I said, here's the schedule again. The Raiders are 5-3. Pittsburgh's 5-3. Chargers are 5-3. 49ers are surprisingly 3-5. They're a good football team. By the time the Bengals play the 49ers, they may have their health in a better situation. They may be playing at a much different level. The Denver Broncos are 5-4. Baltimore, who the Bengals beat, are 6-2. The Bengals gave them their worst loss of the year, 41-17. Remember that? Seems like more than 2 weeks ago. Kansas City Chiefs are 5-4. Cleveland's 5-4. Bengals are 5-4. There's not one team the Bengals can't beat. There's not one team that can't beat the Bengals. So you say, okay, well, if that's the case, 4-4, go 500 in those 8 games. Could happen. Is 9-8 going to get you in the playoffs? Ooh, I don't know. I think you're right. I think you got to get to 10 wins. So they got to go 5-3. That should be a goal. Your goal is to win every one of them, obviously. But if you can somehow muster a win against five of the teams, I think you have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs, because, again, they still have divisional games. After the Raiders game, they go on the road the first game after the bye. Then they have 3 straight home games. Remember, they had 3 straight road games, and they lost the third one to the New York Jets. It was tough to win 3 road games in a row. Now the league is saying, okay, we punished you with the 3 straight road games. After the Raiders game, Pittsburgh, the Chargers, the 49ers, 3 straight home games for the Bengals. Then they go to Denver, then 2 more home games, Baltimore and Kansas City, before they finish in Cleveland. So after they go to out to Las Vegas for the Raiders, 5 of their last 7 games are home games. 3 in a row on the road, 2 in a row on the road. That should help. 8 games left, 5 are home, 3 on the road. The first one after the bye is on the road. Then you have 5 at home, 2 on the road. Got to muster 7 wins in there, 5 wins in there somehow in that 8-game stretch. That's the key. MVP, your usual candidates. I think Joe Burrow should be a big candidate for comeback player of the year. How come I don't hear much about Joe Burrow for comeback player of the year? He comes off a major knee injury, major knee reconstruction, playing great. He's got if he controls the interceptions in the second half of the season, if he finishes the season with 14 or 15 interceptions and 30 touchdown passes, I think he's got a case for throwing his name in the hat if they make the playoffs. He's definitely, in my mind, comeback player of the year on a league-wide basis. He has to be a big candidate for that. Jamar Chase is at the halfway point of the season is the offensive rookie of the year. Will he have as good a second half of the year as he had the first? He might be more than offensive rookie of the year if he does. I mean, that'd be crazy numbers. Be like over 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. I mean, a dog could hunt all day, every day. I think they've got some guys that are worthy of not only mention for what they've done here locally, but on a league wide basis. So we'll see how the whole thing unfolds. Let's see, John, what was the best restaurant you ever ate at on an away game trip? Well, when I played, we ate in the hotel as a team. We didn't go out to dinner. A lot of teams give players per diem and they go out to dinner. Ours was we stayed in the hotel and ate as an entire team, coaches, players, management, ownership. Everybody ate in the same big dining area in the hotels, the restaurants in the hotels. So it wasn't really a restaurant. It was like a big banquet room, like a big meeting room. And they set it up for the team to have their meals there. But I'm a seafood guy and a beef. I love my beef. I love my seafood. So Kansas City has got some great barbecue joints. When you go to Kansas City, you got to check out the barbecue joints. When you go east, you got to check out the seafood. Baltimore obviously has unbelievable crab legs, and there's every little area is known for something from a restaurant standpoint. And all you have to do is ask people in the hotel about best restaurants in the area, and they're more than willing to help you and take care of you. So I do go on the road a little bit more as a broadcaster than I did as a player, that's for sure. The defense has been playing like trash the past 2 weeks. Bengals fan Garcia. Do you blame it more on the players or coaches? I think everybody's suit's dirty. I don't think when the defense is playing like they're playing in a 2-week span after playing as well as they played in a 7-week span, it's like, all right, well, boy, they played very solid defense for 7 weeks. That's a trend. Oh, then you have one terrible game against the Jets. Is that just an aberration? Then you have another game against the Cleveland Browns that you're not proud of. Oh, boy, is that another aberration or is that the beginning of a trend? Bottom line is coaches have to put together great game plans and make adjustments as quickly as possible when necessary to those game plans. And the players have to understand and comprehend those game plans and not be where they're not supposed to be. I mean, bottom line is you have to execute your assignment. And what's going on in the last couple of weeks, both offensively and defensively, if the same guy were not fulfilling his responsibility in terms of filling the hole, doing whatever, you just replace them. But the problem is it's like a virus. In this era of COVID-19, it's like a virus. It infects the team. One snap, it's a defensive lineman. The next snap, it's a cornerback. Next snap, it's a linebacker. Next snap, it's a safety. It's not the same guy. It's not the same position group. Sometimes there are multiple by multiple position groups. You might have 2 guys not doing what they're supposed to do. That is the problem. That's the problem. And too much of that's happening. So over this 2-week span, they have to get back on track. If it's everybody's responsible. It's not just players, not just coaches. It never is. Everybody's suit's dirty. They all have to get on the same page and get back to playing the type of football that they played the first 7 games of the year. No question about it defensively. What will be Jackson Carman's job in the future? Right now, Jackson Carman is in the mix at the right guard position. They haven't given up on Jackson Carman, but they wanted to see Hakeem Adeniji, and they liked what they saw when he came back and lined up at guard at practice. They wanted to take a look at him, and that's life in the National Football League. Hakeem Adeniji got an opportunity, and to everybody's understanding, is capitalized on the chance. He played all the snaps against the Cleveland Browns. And now he gets a chance to play again against the Raiders. Jackson Carman is one injury away from being either guard or either tackle. Jackson Carman right now, I know you're a rookie, and I know the easiest thing is to learn one position, but the best thing to do is to try to learn as much as you can about the whole schematic of the offensive line. Who's doing what? Why is he doing it? If the right guard's pulling, is the center reaching? Is the tackle blocking down? Is the fullback filling? Who's taking that defensive tackle that the pulling guard is vacating? Don't just tunnel vision on, okay, I just want to know right guard, and I don't care about anything else, and I'm a robot right guard. And learn the entire scheme. Learn what's going on around you. If you do that, it's going to make you a better football player. If you play right guard for 20 years, or if you end up being a lineman that's going to play multiple positions. That's one thing that I prided myself on, is trying to learn as much as I possibly could, not just the offensive line, but I wanted to know route, trees, schemes there, why they were doing it. I mean, Paul Brown ended up, we used to be tested on our assignments. Paul Brown tested me on my assignments, and he gave me a grade in one corner of my assignments, and he gave me a grade in the other corner of everybody else's assignments. I wanted to try to learn as much as I could about what everybody was doing. I think that only helps you. It certainly can't hurt you. So if I'm Jackson Carman, he's a very smart guy, very intelligent. I would try to expand my horizon and learn as much as I can about the Cincinnati Bengals offense as possible, and make myself as versatile and diverse a football player position-wise as possibly can be, because you're going to play a lot of football that way. If it's not one of the 5 starting offensive line positions, they only activate 7 on game day. If you're not starting, you better be able to play more than one position and be able to hand it mentally and physically. So that's the path that I would recommend that Jackson Carman takes. Dave, do the linemen have a different line of communication than Burrow and the wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends do? Sometimes I see the guards stand up and look at Burrow before the snap. Yeah, I mean, that's just like a trigger. Sometimes the center will look between his legs, look up. I mean, they have different. Sometimes the guard will pat the center on one of his. This is all if the quarterback's in shotgun, obviously. If the quarterback's under center, it's a different ball game. But if you're on the road and it's noisy and it's loud, there's going to be like movement triggers that start because there's silent snap counts, and something has to trigger the time frame where it's like, okay, the triggers happen. Now you have to wait a beat and the ball is snapped. So that's what you're looking at there. And on the road, when there's a lot of crowd noise, you'll see more communication going on between offensive linemen. You'll see unspoken communication going on between quarterback and receivers and offensive line. You'll see the quarterback still walk up to the offensive line and bark, up and down the offensive line and yell as loud as he can and try to communicate some things verbally. But a lot of that does go on. There's a lot of body language, type signals and triggers and all that sort of thing that will start motion. Quarterback will raise a foot, to start a motion, that sort of thing. There's a lot of that you'll see for different reasons during the course of the game with different football teams. Rob, Dave, isn't the offense getting too predictable, namely trying to force throws to Jamar Chase? Well, in that last game, Rob, you're making a valid point in that I think Jamar was targeted 12 or 13 times. Tyler Boyd was targeted twice and had 1 catch. Jamar Chase was targeted 13 times, I think it was, and he had 6 catches. So I think when things start to unravel, sometimes coverage will dictate it. Tyler Boyd's being double teamed in the slot on 3rd down. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's taking Tyler Boyd away from Joe Burrow on 3rd down. Last year, Tyler Boyd was Joe Burrow's security blanket on 3rd and 4th down. This year, teams aren't allowing that to happen. So, and they're leaving Jamar Chase in more situations where Joe feels comfortable going to Jamar Chase. And Joe and Jamar Chase have the longest relationship of working with each other than anybody on the football team. I mean, they worked together in college for a couple of years before they came to the National Football League. So when it's starting to unravel a little bit, you go where your comfort is, particularly if they're not necessarily trying to take them away, like your other comfort guys being taken away in Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins is obviously going to get his touches as well. There's no reason that having 3 wide receivers, the talent level that this wide receiver group is, that you can't get them all involved, either by formation, motion. There's ways to, make it tougher to double team people if you really want to go there. So all of this is part of the process, and it'll probably be addressed during bye week as well. Crypt Keeper, Mr. Lapham. Wow, Mr. Lapham. How about that? Do you see Paul Brown Stadium going back to natural grass, playing surface in the future? I really don't. I don't think so. I think natural grass is a little bit harder, obviously, to take care of. I do think that there are artificial surfaces that are so next generation in terms of development that in the beginning, when I first played on an artificial surface called AstroTurf, it was like playing on this tabletop. I mean, pour concrete, half-inch padding, put on the AstroTurf. I was sore. If you fell to the ground, I was more sore when I cut people. You'd have to sell out and leave your feet and chop block people. You'd go to the ground, they'd fall on top of you. I was more sore from that than anything. When you fell to the turf, it was like 2 hits. You'd hit the player, big hit there. You both go to the turf, and big hit there. So I remember in the early stages of career playing on AstroTurf, getting out of bed the next morning, oil can, I'm stiff everywhere, man. It's not just from playing football, it's playing on the surface that we're playing on. So, and then of course there were multi-use stadiums. So there'd be big seams for the baselines, for the base cutouts, for the pitcher's mound, for home plate. In those seams, man, I saw a lot of bad injuries in those seams. Guys blow ankles, break ankles, blow knees out. I mean, I go natural grass because if it is a multi-use stadium, dirt, you go from grass to dirt. There's no seams. There's no, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I'm of the mindset, if the cows can't eat it, don't play on it. I'd go natural grass. Do you have a dream guest on the podcast? Wow. I've already had quite a few dreams come true in terms of podcast guests. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I'm always trying to aim as high as I possibly can. Maybe I'd like to get the commissioner of the National Football League on the podcast, Roger Goodell. That'd be kind of fun to talk to Commissioner Goodell. That'd be a good dream guest at some point during the season. But in the off season of football, I don't know. That's a good question. There's a lot of players a lot of coaches, a lot of legendary people that you can kind of aspire to have on as guests. There's no doubt about that. It's just about anybody from the sports world, but not even just the sports world. I mean, man, a dream guest, not just sports related. I don't know. I'd like to maybe catch up with President of the United States, the former president, maybe Donald Trump, my former owner of the New Jersey Generals. Donald Trump. That'd be an interesting guest, I think, for a podcast. I don't know. You get my mind working a little bit here. We'll have to think about it and see what we can put together. All right. Drathicus Rex. Thoughts on last night's taunting call against the Bears? I mean, I can understand why they're doing it. I can understand. That was a heck of a little, whatever you would call that, semi-round off kick that he had or whatever, after he made the play. But the thing is, that it's a point of emphasis. That if you walk toward the sideline and do what he did, that there's a good chance there's going to be a penalty. Avoid it. I mean, if he just did his little physical act or whatever, it wouldn't have been any big deal. walk off the field. The thing that bugs me though is what's Tony Careni doing, giving a little hip check? Why is he initiating contact with the player as the player exits the field? What's that about? Come on now. I mean, your crew was overly officious, and then you on national television try to I don't know, are you trying to intimidate him with a little contact? Or are you trying to say to the league, hey, as he exited the field, he also contacted me, collisioned me. That should be a fine. That should be this. That should be that. Stay in your lane, bro. Don't try to cause things that are going to exacerbate problems. You should be trying to eliminate, calm down issues, not be a catalyst or gasoline on the match to flame it up. Come on now, everybody's better than that. Do I think in some cases though the league's gone too far? Yeah, I do. To play at the level emotionally you have to play at the NFL, your adrenaline is pumping. It's pumping. And sometimes guys can initially react from an emotional standpoint that maybe is overboard. And, unless they're demeaning the opponent or whatever the case may be, let it go. Let it go. The National Football League, a lot of guys saying now the NFL is a no fun league. I don't know, man. If you take it too far, it could turn into the no fun league. There is a balancing point, and the pendulum swings. And sometimes, it's here and it'll swing too far the other way and swing back. It's got to find that midpoint. There's a midpoint where the pendulum's totally balanced. Right now, it's still swinging back and forth. They're not doing enough, then they're doing too much. They haven't found that midpoint. At some point in time, they'll find that bad boy. Who is the dirtiest player you ever played against? I'm not going to even name the dirty guys. That's what they're looking for is, that kind of – I have no respect for that, to be honest with you. I have no respect for guys that spit, guys that whatever, guys that will try to kick you in the privates or whatever the case may be. It's just that's not part of the game. So I don't even want to glorify anybody for playing dirty football, basketball, baseball, whatever the heck it is. Play the game the way it was meant to be played. Forget all that stuff. To me, it's a non-subject. Mr. Lapham, what is your favorite football movie? For humor, I like The Longest Yard. That's pretty funny. That's a funny movie. I'm basically a softie for a bunch of football movies. I like historical movies though, like the Jim Thorpe story. I like those kind of movies as well. But Longest Yard, pretty funny movie. All right. You need to have Bob Trumpy on the show. We have had Bob Trumpy on the show. Yeah, there is a Bob Trumpy. It's audio. It's not a podcast video cast, but in the early stages of the podcast when we were just doing audio, Bob Trumpy was a guest. The audio is on available to you on our roster of podcasts that have been done. But you know what? I had him on the radio here recently, just a week or so ago, and he was great. We had him on our Wednesday night show, and he was great. So maybe have Trump on again. Bob Trumpy always has an opinion, and he has reasons that formulated that opinion, and Trump is the best. The godfather of talk radio here in the city of Cincinnati, Bob Trumpy. And I'll tell you what, Trump was a player, unbelievable athlete. Played college basketball at Illinois, played football. Trump had the big coat hanger shoulders, big broad shoulders, was a big man, probably close to 6'6", and could run. I mean, size-speed ratio. Back in the day, everybody talks about size-speed ratio now on tight ends. This guy was an amazingly gifted athlete in terms of size-speed ratio, and there would be mismatches that Bill Walsh would create with Bob Trumpy. I mean, the old double reverse triple pass we had, Bob Trumpy would eat people alive with that play, but he'd be able to seal the edge in the running game because of his strength and his size. and he ran routes like a wide receiver and caught the heck out of the football. Bob Trumpy, player, big time player. Last question. My man, Dave Burke. Without Dave Burke, we have no podcast. We have no video cast. We got nothing. We got squadouche. Okay, it came through Twitter. All right. Our final question of the live podcast came through Twitter. I can't read that very. Can you read it, Dave? Can you read it? I can't read that. All right. We do appreciate the way everybody is reaching out to us and the response that we're getting from all you folks. I'm glad that you are enjoying our podcast and the guests we have on our podcast. We're going to try to keep them at a high quality for you and give you something to look forward to during the season. Like I said, we've gotten into a rhythm of on Tuesday. In most cases, this is a bye week, but on most cases, we have a player or a coach. Today, the Bengals had practice in meetings, and it was like a kind of a Wednesday because of the bye week. The players were in meetings with coaches and on the football field practicing. So on Thursday, hopefully getting back to maybe having a coordinator or a couple of coordinators or somebody very highly involved in the game of football on this Thursday, and then get back to our little rotation of a coach and player that played or coached in the football game the prior Sunday on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, I get the opposing color analyst to participate in the podcast. All right. So people were asking questions on Twitter, and we do appreciate you folks. But we're picking Tim Hockett. We're getting your question here. Do you think the Bengals can re-sign safety Jessie Bates after the season? I don't want him to leave. He's a good player. Do you think he'll stay in Cincinnati? I do think that that's their priority. I do think that Jessie Bates, getting him signed, is a big priority for the Cincinnati Bengals. And, I think in a perfect world, they would have liked to have signed him by now. But, both parties have to be agreeable to terms and conditions of a contract. And, Jessie's agent is not happy enough yet with what the Bengals are talking about. I don't think they've broken off negotiations or anything like that. I don't think it's gotten that kind of, there's not that kind of contentiousness toward it. But you've seen, during the season, during one of his Zoom conferences, press conferences, Mike Hilton said at the end, as he turned to the media, and as he was leaving, his message was, sign Jessie Bates. So you have teammates on this, not only in the secondary, but teammates in every position group on the football team that look at Jessie Bates as a tremendous football player, leader, person, human being. I mean, Jessie Bates has so many redeeming qualities. There's no question about it. That's the kind of guy that you want to keep in your organization if you can get it done. But again, it takes two parties, two sides to come to an agreement. And at this point in time, obviously, it hasn't. That's the simplest terms. I admire Jessie Bates for playing the way he's playing. It's like the thing that you hope doesn't happen when you're in that situation as players, you get injured. It's a tough dynamic. But Jessie Bates has made a lot of plays already for this defensive football team, and he will continue to make plays. He's a factor in the locker room, on the football field, in the community. He's a great representative for the organization in every way, shape, or form you can think of. I'm very high on Jessie Bates as a player and, again, as a person. So I, along with all you Bengal fans, would love to see Jessie Bates remain a Cincinnati Bengal for the duration of his National Football League career. With that said, we're going to give you one more reminder about the sweepstakes. There are directions below on how to get involved in the sweepstakes. You can enter multiple times. A few people already have done that. And one of the prizes is $3,000. You know, I mean, it buys a lot of turkey at Thanksgiving. Takes care of a lot of Christmas presents. That's the key. And if you get a big family, $3,000 will help. Will help take care of a lot of Christmas presents. You'll be Santa Claus to everybody. So join in, join the fun. Get a little relief for the holiday season. We get is it four or five options that are on the sweepstakes? Is it several options on the sweepstakes that are there for you to take advantage of? 3,000. We have tickets to a game, and signed football, and then dinner. Go to dinner with you and whoever, your wife, your significant other, whoever it may be, your son, your daughter. I'm taking my significant other, which is my wife, Lynn. So we'll go to dinner with you guys. And it's at Jeff Ruby's. So one of the great places that just about every team that comes to town, a bunch of players go to Jeff Ruby's. So it's nationally renowned. It's worldwide recognized. Jeff Ruby's, we have it right here in Cincinnati. So nothing wrong with going to have a good piece of beef at Jeff Ruby's. What do you think? So come one, come all. Take advantage of sweepstakes. Directions you'll find right below, and take advantage multiple times. With that said, we're out.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.